we have our featured reader of the evening, Rhona McAdam. Rhona is a poet, holistic nutritionist, and food writer living in Victoria. Her books include Cartography and Ex-Ville, both poetry, and Digging the City, an urban agriculture manifesto. Her new collection, Larder, from Caitlin Press, includes poems on bees, bugs, and lots of food. And I like to try to dig up an interview. And Rhona, it was hard. There weren't that many interviews with you, but I found this podcast from coincidentally Planet Poetry. I left out the Earth part. And I listened to it. It was a fun conversation, and there were a couple lines I pulled out of there. The first one, which I love, is "Jobs get in the way of poetry, I find." I'm like, yeah, they do. I'm trying to use my job right now, but generally speaking, they take up too much time. And the other thing you said that I really liked was you often hear poets saying they weren't expecting a poem to come out the way it did, or that they didn't necessarily set out to write a particular poem the way it turned out. And also that we don't always expect the interpretations that other people may put on our poems. So I think in a way, in that way, the control is shared between the poet and the reader, and the poet and the muse. So I love that. Please welcome Rhona McAdam. Okay.
Good. Feel free to pull it up or down.
Thank you. Hello out there in Zoom land. I managed to leave my my carefully curated list of poems that I was going to read at home, so we'll be improvising that tonight. Thank you for that beautiful reading, Catherine. That was just stunning, and thanks to all the open mic readers who were also stunning. So we've been well served tonight. So I am, they say I'm a gardener. I have a garden and I wrestle with it. So one of the things that we wrestle with at this time of year is tent caterpillars. And so I have a tent caterpillar poem as it happens. Tent caterpillars. All the long spring they've been hatching, black worms numerous and immaterial, spinning tents in the branches to house a communal appetite, falling from their shrouds in long black drops, growing into their skin and gilding bristle until lions at last they bask on tree limbs in the heat of noon, emerging from torpor in the cooling air. We swear we hear them whiskering up the walls, their 1,000 fingers caressing our roofs and chimney pots, their soft black patience lingering on our windows, watching us eat, raking their hunger along leaf lines, carving as they feed the story of their body's garden, swelling with the season, and one day leafing like autumn leaves, leafing like autumn wings. All right, let's skip this slide. This one is a fish poem. It started when I was with friends in Suffolk, and you can buy fish off the waterfront. And I was introduced to skate in brown butter, which was really delicious. And then I discovered just how they get those wings, and that skate, like so many things now, is endangered. So this is called Skate. In dark waters, my inscriptions washed away, I am a great slate, or blank paper turned by the sea's wind. I flutter like a falling message from the blue air above, where the fishermen breathe a livelihood big enough to turn those engines. I am as light as my liquid world, night shadow among the plankton, plying my hunger as I am patterned to do. But the nets, breathing current, surround the little world that gathers unwillingly in their throats. All of us, prey and hunter, school and solitary, lifted to an air too dry to breathe, awaiting official word on whether fish feel pain, and until then, what to make of this swift knife, the living descent of the torso, wingless, a piecemeal for something. On shore, the basket of wings twitches like the limbs of a sleeping dog. And speaking of dogs, I know one or two of us have dogs. This is a tribute to dog hair, really. Dog running. In the other room, the dog is running in some precarious place he knows, forming its name between gritted teeth. He chews and whiffles its syllables in the language of that land, which he visits often. The forays we make in my world only lure him back to that inner meadow, seeking the twilit pack who wait for him at the water's edge, their tracks settling in the sand, the meaning of their scent imponderable and worthy of long reflection. Are there people there or rabbits? I suspect only dogs who challenge my existence, calling him by some wild name, drawing him farther into their darkness. Sometimes I brush him while he sleeps. The brush mats so quickly with his fur, I think it is dreams seeping from his pores, hair by hair. They travel around the house, assemble themselves into clouds on the floor that riffle when we pass. When sunlight reaches into these rooms, his dreams glint on every surface, the house becoming dogged in the shine of its nascent pelt. He lies down in that, as if this is the path he must follow to leave this place, as if rehearsing for the dream in which his work here is done. I read that at a retreat, and it was immediately followed by about 6 cat poems. Of which I have none in this book. This was the poem I wrote last that managed to get snuck into the book at the last minute because it just seemed appropriate to the title in a way that not all of the poems do. It's set at St. Peter's Abbey, which I don't know, some of you may have been to in Saskatchewan, where I have often attended writing retreats in the middle of winter. And it's just glorious to be able to sit and have somebody else prepare your meals and watch the snow fall and know you have nowhere to go. And I had a tour of the root cellar one time. So this is called Abbey Root Cellar, February. The kitchen door divides the clatter and perfume of dinner from a silent underworld. We follow the sloping door to a hive of low ceilings and rooms, cut from some summer soil, step soundless on packed earth as if walking the monastery's grounds, pacing out prayer with the brothers. A trail of light flows from dark to dim to a pale bulb swinging from its rope. In the room of potatoes, the frost seeps upwards, turning their flesh soft and sugary. There is an urgency to their use. In the room of carrots, we feel them beneath our hands, brushing through sand, root hairs seeking moisture and solid earth. Tall jars on long shelves in all colors. Preserving is work, and work is prayer, and this is a wall of it. Each summer, the monks make jam from the orchard fruits, pack tender bodies in syrup, pickles, kraut, peas and beets and beans from the gardens. The year has passed its midpoint. Gaps mar the patterns like lost teeth. Above us, the work carries on. Vespers in the chapel, chants losing threads each year, time overtaking the garden, its form a shadow beneath the snow, custodians moving more slowly than winter. Another time I was at the Abbey, they were having some kind of issue with the cook. And so there was what we call a pinch hitter in there who lacked the necessary talent. So we had to take revenge as best we could, and my answer was poetry. Cutlet. Whatever you were, you have now become other. There is no way to identify from this bristle, from this uncuttable dark shape on the plate, what larger shape you breathed, or how long you walked, ran, toughened on this earth. What I face has no name, no identifying condiment. Inside this skin of coating, you are gray, your flavor only meat. How then to court you on this plate of woe? Where my knife approaches, you grow skittish, escaping to the plate's borders, forging a trail of grease and porridge from through the starch and vegetation, until you are alone, unyielding. No softening of your position on the fork. And so I grant you emancipation, a return to the earth that fed you, that one of us at least may leave this meal redeemed. Never feed a poet. There was also a brief unfortunate time when they stopped serving gravy with the roast chicken. Gravy. Who'd want to live in a world without gravy, which makes all things equal on the plate, which gives potatoes a smooth ride, which comforts the meat it came from? If gravy were the world, there'd be no war, just happy islands in a savory sea. We'd all be warm enough in our blanket of brown. There'd be no need for knives. We could curl forever in the wombs of ladles. Floured or cornstarch, thickened or reduced, let it line your plate like the fabric of childhood and sign its name on the Sunday roast. Let it swoon in your Yorkshires and kiss each vegetable good night. So I know that as I am always tormented by curiosity when Zoe slips that, what do you call that, the preview, the taster.
Oh, yeah.
The taster.
Poetic appetizer.
Yeah, the poetic appetizer into the newsletter. So this is the rest of that appetizer. It is a poem. I think I wrote it around the time I was actually giving a paper at an environmental literature conference about how we kind of become part of our garden. So it was actually published in a farming journal, which I'm very proud of. Tasting dirt. Earth called me to its table, and I became its fork, its knife, its roundest spoon. My teeth were its pebbles, my tongue wormed the blackest reaches, seeking to unite its minerals, its dank organic matter, its shit and water, and the white wires of roots which thirsted in curtains for the deep and never reached it. I ate the dirt that welcomed me, that sang beneath my shovel, its guttural songs, its parables of wind and weather, that turned its belly to the sun, its back on winter, that swallowed our seed, our water, our blood, and unfolded its hand of marbles. Beneath the moons of my nails, it laid down its black horizons, imprinted its reckonings in each line on my hands, bruised my face and gritted my hair, ran off my body and back to ground each night, carried me with it, dead leaves of my skin, broken stalks of my hair, making up the ancestral bed. I wanted to read this because we just had that windstorm. Spring storm. Trees barely in leaf thrash their argumentative limbs, unable to speak. Later in the season, their voices will multiply, accusatives waxing sibilant in a summer storm. But spring is all mute fury, the beating of empty fists on the window, wrenching bite from branch, fistfuls of birds seeding the wind. This season, the rain will be all that speaks, slapping itself on the pavement, dashing the soil. We have gone beyond thirst, it seems. The skin of the earth, too old and tired to open and accept. The clouds, too angry to be gentle. They blacken with all they have held back. Water runs where it will, taking with it all that we have planted. It's almost a relief, the burden of all that care swept out of reach. The earth's crust is melting beneath the rain, diminishing the work of millennia to a stain in the storm drain that will plume and settle its blanket of silt to silence the open ocean floor. Anyone gluten intolerant here? There's always a few, right? And so this is kind of the sum total I've so far been able to dredge up from my nutrition training. And it's called Devil Spawn of the Devil Grass Meat. Number one enemy of the gut. Down it comes through the entry tube of ourselves. 1,000 times a year, maybe, this same trip, spoiling for trouble. Our gut gets tired of fighting it, this protein fraction itching to ford the tight junctions of our mucosal lining. It's just another thug hanging around the epithelium, up to no good. For years, the bouncers throw it out, kick it into the body's sewer, tell it not to come back. But at breakfast, lunch, there it is again, same crooked grin as it pushes past until finally, perhaps the bouncers have had a bad night, some irksome not molecule throwing its weight around, wearing them down, diverting attention. Off in one dark corner, something changes hands. The door cracks open, and finally the gluten slips through. There's more unpleasantness. The lymphocytes move in, their memory cells deranged and working overtime. Suddenly everyone's a suspect, being hauled off, protests ignored, a massive case of mistaken identity. Riots erupt in the body's distant suburbs. Fires burn in the gut, the turning places of the knees. Up in the brain, there's confusion. Fog rolls in, even while the sun shines. Sometimes the battles flare up overnight, waking the body from its slumbers with a sense. Someone's moving around downstairs. So, one or two more.
You got time for two?
Well, I've been shoe shopping, so I have really sore feet a lot of the time. So, God bless Hokas. So this is from Cartography. Obviously, this is a long time. Shoes. Castaways on the carpet, ruins of my feet, sometimes forgotten, trampling my closets, never good enough after the first kiss on the shoe shop's plush carpet. Shoes with the blues, shoes with half my wallet in them and then unwearable. Shoes with special insoles, with broken laces. Never a Doc Marten, a Buster Brown, or a penny loafer. Once a wallaby. Boots with buckled legs hold up the wardrobe walls and wait for snow. One pair can't be worn in rain. These I cannot be seen in. This pair makes my toes numb. These give me cramp. These ones aren't warm enough. In these, the upper's cracked. One pair started creaking. Another shows a toe. These ones keep them guessing. where all the money goes.
Perfect.
And I just wanted to finish with this my one and only attempt at a translation. It's from a charming collection of folk tales from the Amazon by Juan Carlos Galeano, a Colombian poet who lives and teaches in Florida. And I heard him read this at a conference and fell in love with it. It's called Table for Mesa. The table often dreamt it was an animal. But if it were an animal, it could not be a table. If it were an animal, it would have run with the others when the chainsaws came to take the trees, which would become tables. In the house, a woman comes every night and passes a warm cloth over its back, as if it were an animal. On its 4 legs, the table could run away from the house, but it thinks of the chairs that surround it. It knows an animal does not abandon its young. But the table likes best is when the woman tickles it while she gathers the breadcrumbs left by the children. Thank you so much.